It is a universally known fact that intelligent biological life was not meant for prolonged exposure to the emptiness of space. Most advanced species gave up on manned space exploration early in their development, and while those with a higher tolerance for pain and mental strain have carved out little pockets of the galaxy to call their own, travel between the stars is done mostly by fully automatized, AI-controlled ships, and there was a good reason for it. There were many names for this affliction. Some more spiritually inclined empires call it the corrupting void, an unseen and malign entity clawing at your body and soul after spending too much time off-planet, especially during FTL travel. This corruption can be staved off by strict meditative focus, banishing the thoughts of the vast emptiness around you and mentally grounding yourself to not fall to its maddening lure. Those who scoffed at the idea of a supernatural explanation pointed at a lethal combination of cabin pressure, homesickness, social stigmata, as well as an ever-present subconscious dread created by being only a technical malfunction away from myriads of gruesome fates all at once. Adding the effects of raw physical strain of travelling at physics-defying speed on top of the pile, they coined this so-called medical condition as psychosomatic vacuum proximity-induced FTL sickness. Well, that's what the preachers and lab boys call it, at least. The rest of the universe gave it a much simpler name: space madness. Its severity varies, but it starts with a general feeling of anxiousness. The feeling that you might get when you walk through a lively wildlife reserve outside the city dome, and suddenly everything falls silent. Your backside scales begin to raise and shift to a more deflected position, as the primal urge to run grows and grows. There is a predator near, and not seeing anything that could directly harm you just makes it worse. Working on an orbital docking station, only part-time of course, as it is legally required to return to the ground after 80 sleep cycles, I know the feeling all too well. It is not so bad when the station is bustling with customers, but during the breaks? Let's just say that unpaid overtime is the lesser evil compared to spending longer than necessary in the empty break room, nervously fixating on every sound this giant spacebound metal coffin you are trapped in can surprise you with. After this, you reach one of two following stages. Those of us that evolve from prey species, such as myself, generally descend into a catatonic state of overwhelming fear that can lead to severe depression, heart failure, long-lasting panic attacks, and a variety of heavy phobias. Those that evolve from predators instead become increasingly irritated and aggressive, causing spurts of violence, paranoia, highly destructive behavior, and sometimes even to full-scale murderous rampages. And then, there are the humans. Humans seem to not be affected by space madness. Where other interstellar travellers reaching my station for refueling and emergencies would look sickly and disoriented, exhausted from the safety-required cryosleep, humans mated off their ships with nothing but a grin on their face, and a ravenous hunger for unhealthy sustenance and intoxicating beverages. Their apparent immunity to space madness made them valuable temporary station workers, often running the emergency shifts. The knowledge of someone working on your station that could work even when others would suffer a mental breakdown, however, did not increase morale as one might think. In fact, the mere presence of a human tends to terrify people, even though that they are not of imposing build, in comparison to the galactic standard. Neither were they going out of their way to be intimidating, I think. Yes, they do their whole teeth-baring greeting thing, which can upset someone not used to such a display. And yes, they do carry around an excessive number of weapons wherever they go, even if they tend to be archaic and not very effective. But the main reason the humans were scary was because they love space. A lot. Their entire species seemed to be obsessed with space travel. They were one of the few species that joined the Galactic Senate, not after being contacted by automated survey ships, but by sending manned envoy ships into, and I am quoting the first Terran ambassador here, into every corner of this goddamn galaxy, until we find someone to race against or run out of volunteers to send into space. And we had a lot of volunteers. They thrive in the spaces between the void. First they were confused why no one else was sharing their passion. For them, the rush of blazing through the stars at the speed of light was a joy only overtaken by the beauty of the far places of a galaxy full of wonder. After being taught the dangers of space madness, they just laughed and gave their condolences to the poor ground-chained sods that could not see a good time when it slapped them in the face. After being barred entry to most planets to prevent their dangerous influence to spread, they can now be found hopping from station to station, selling resources mined at the fringes of the galaxy, telling tall tales of what they had seen on their travels, and drinking themselves into a stupor before shooting back into the terrifying void they came from. Maybe the idea that humans are immune to space madness is not entirely correct. Maybe the reason why humanity feels so at home in the maddening emptiness that lurks outside is that when they stare into the insanity of the abyss, it stares back at a species even madder.